Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Great Vocal Majority Podcast, your source for the conservative view on American politics and culture, and where the issues are discussed with goodwill, candor, and intelligence. And now, here's your host, Tony Cadaspati.
Thanks, Duke. This is volume 73 of the Great Vocal Majority Podcast. And today, what I'm going to talk about is a video from The Atlantic that I saw on YouTube demanding that Donald Trump be impeached. Now, this is a complete misreading of history and the process of impeachment. Impeachment in this video is hailed as an orderly process. Well, it's really no such thing. It's almost entirely a partisan political process. Nowhere in this video does its author explain why Donald Trump is unfit to be president. He just says Donald Trump is unfit to be president and you're supposed to accept it. But to not imply any intellectual rigor or critical thinking to that whatsoever really does do a disservice to the viewer of this video. Now, it's true that a large swath of Americans revile President Trump. There's no doubt about that. But it's also true that a similarly large swath of America strongly supports President Trump. So it's by no means a foregone conclusion that even the slimmest majority of Americans favor impeachment. So it's therefore incredibly irresponsible, inflammatory, and divisive to demand impeachment on a subjectively determined ground such as unfitness for office. According to who? Unfitness according to who? What in the world does that even mean? Well, you know as well as I do that the answer is going to depend on whom you ask. The country is thriving under President Donald Trump. Despite all the resistance and almost uniformly hostile news and even entertainment media, monolithic Democrat Party opposition, and establishmentarian Republican opposition, Donald Trump is succeeding, and America, along with a majority of Americans, are succeeding with him. Now, it's this fact, I think, that most terrifies the left in America and internationally. It also terrifies establishmentarians in both political parties because Trump's success could very well spell disaster for them. All Americans should pray that Donald Trump succeed in the endeavor of empowering American citizens towards self-sufficiency and individual liberty. The sovereignty of every individual citizen cannot coexist when there's a leviathan of a central government authority that's permitted to grow unimpeded. The United States can't be permitted to transform itself into some Americanized version of the Soviet Union. In other words, a vast, massive, sclerotic jumble of powerful and corrupt bureaucrats that control everybody's lives, countless rules, abuses of power, and enslavement of a population. Yet that's exactly where we're heading. But at least right now, for the moment, we're lucky enough to have a president, despite all of his shortcomings, of which there are plenty, who stands athwart that movement, enabling Americans once and possibly a final opportunity to not leap into the abyss where all other such experiments in individual liberty and human dignity and sovereignty, where they all have ended. The unlimited power of the permanent central government is really the greatest threat to human liberty. Whether knowingly or unknowingly, Donald Trump is undermining that power structure, and it's good that he is. Individual sovereignty cannot long endure the continued encroachment of the central federal authority on it. That isn't something we should impeach President for doing. It's something which, if he was really successful at doing it, deserves a face on Mount Rushmore. For the Great Vocal Majority, I'm Tony Cadaspati. Thanks for listening to this podcast. And if you'd like, take time to look at the website or subscribe to this podcast, and you'll get a notice every time a new podcast is available. Thanks for listening.